Hi, welcome 6th graders. We're going to continue our study of Egyptian history and what you've been learning about Egypt and the mummies, and we're going to create an Egyptian tomb out of clay. Our first step is you're going to get a ball of clay. Now, it's important to wedge the clay. Clay sometimes will have air bubbles or things that are trapped inside that want to escape when it's fired at the high temperatures. And sometimes when they're trapped in there and they can't get out, they tend to want to explode out. So we don't want that. So wedge your clay just by pushing, turn, push, turn, push, turn. Create a nice, even, consistent ball of clay. And then I do want you to flatten it out a little bit. You can take two hands and to kind of just put your weight into it and flatten it out. Okay? Another way is to kind of just slap it down at an angle like this. And you'll get kind of a flattened piece. We do want kind of a long, narrow piece of clay, and you're going to flatten it out. And to get a consistent width of clay flattened out, put these two dowels between it, okay? And then just press out. You can kind of just also slap it down a couple times. That kind of stretches it a little bit. There you go. All right, I like this side a little bit better. All right, now I'm going to take my mummy template and I'm going to trace it out. All right, I'm not going to cut it out quite yet because I'm going to add some texture to it. And the reason I'm waiting is just sometimes when you're adding and you're pressing in things, you'll flatten out the clay just a little bit as you're doing that. So come up with some textures. You can use these texture plates if you'd like. I also have some stamps available at the front of the supply table you can use. Okay, so at the main table there'll be some of these little stamps that you can use. Now I'm leaving this kind of top part for the arms and features. Now I've done that little duty. Now I'm going to put my template back on there, make sure it hasn't lost its shape, and then I'm going to cut it out. All right. And pull away the excess clay from what you've cut. All right. There we go. Get as close to the shape that we have there as possible, because we are going to, this is going to actually be the lid to our tomb. Next week we'll work on the bottom part of it. All right, so now this is going to be the lid, so I'm going to actually gently turn it over. Now once we get moving with this, we can kind of gently just turn things over and without it losing its shape. Now if you hadn't noticed, this tomb has this box on it. This is going to be a lid, and I don't want this lid to slip around too much, so I'm going to make a little rim here on the inside of the lid. And I can easily do that by creating a long tube like that and just flattening it out just a little bit. Okay? About the size of the paper there. I need to make this one just a little bit longer, which I can stretch it out just a little bit and flatten. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect, but it's basically its purpose is to kind of just create a rim, so when it's sitting on top of the box it will stay put. Don't get too wide with it because we do want it to sit nicely on top of the box. All right, so I'm actually going to roll this out just a little bit thinner than this because I want it to be kind of just a narrow little band of clay there. Now, whenever we put clay to clay together, we need to score it. If we just let it dry on there, it's just going to dry, shrink, and fall off. So it is important to score and to slip. Slip means you're adding a little moisture. Some basically liquid clay is slip. And it kind of creates a nice glue for both of those. So you either use your sponge or the spray bottle and get it nice and moist. Now, do not go crazy with the water. It becomes difficult to work with if you are using too much water. Slimy clay can be a problem. Now, you can also use this little tool here. This is a great tool for joining, and just to make sure it just absolutely fits on there nicely. It's not going anywhere. It's not falling off. We can join clay to clay. And then you can also use these tools to kind of even out. And my best friend, the sponge, when it's wet, you can kind of create and smooth out any areas. All right, that's going to be the back, okay? And at this point, you can flip it over, and we'll begin to make some of the other details. All right, now be careful now. It is now a little teetery, and so do not, we still want this to be somewhat flat. So don't bend those edges over, okay? Or when you're all done, kind of straighten it out again. Flip it over and kind of flatten it out. All right, now this next step is we're going to add some features. Okay, so I'd like to add a head, and I'm just going to roll this into kind of a ball shape, and then you can just flatten it out just a little bit, and I'm going to create a head there. Now again, score, and score both. And add a little moisture. I got a little carried away there, not too much. All right, and then press them together. Very good. All right, so I've made that. Now we've got some great tools to work with for cutting. There's a knife tool. There's this one with kind of a scoop for digging out. There's some pin tools to add some details. I'm going to use this one for the eyes. It kind of creates a nice crevice for the eyes, kind of an Egyptian eye even. Kind of that exotic look. Now I can get a little tiny piece, a small bit of clay, and just kind of create a small eyeball there. Stick that in. That's kind of big. Maybe I'd go a little smaller there. I don't know. You can always pull out little pieces. Put those in there. Oh, kind of looks pretty intense there, but also I can use my pen tool here. Create a little pupil. All right, very good. Create so maybe like a small triangle, score that area up there, and create a nose. A little bit, a tiny bit of moisture, just a little bit, and score up that nose. All right, we can kind of shape it with some of the tools that we have at our tables. There we go. Everybody's going to get a tray of tools like this and a cloth when you get your clay and work on it that way. All right, I'm going to maybe shorten up that nose just a little bit. He's got to have room for his mouth. Now, I can make a mouth in a couple of different ways using different tools. Make one like that. Let's see, what else do we need here? All right. Some of the other details I'm going to add later, like a beard and stuff like that. Those are small details that I can add as we go. All right, next step is you are needing some arms. And I would, ahead of time, maybe draw where you think you want your arms. They're going to kind of, traditionally, they kind of fold up together like that. So, and this is where they're going to go. So I'm going to score that area, score this area. All right, and now rolling out the clay into kind of like a little sausage shape. Okay, kind of roll this way with the clay. Thicker areas you kind of focus on so that it kind of evens it out. All right, now I've got enough there. I can make 2 arms and score those up. And put a little moisture there. 1 arm. Bend it and attach it. Okay, now it is important to make sure that these stay on there. What happens sometimes is clay shrinks and things that are not attached well will just come right off of there. So we want to make sure it's on there. I'm going to flatten out that hand just a little bit. It's a little bit more wide and flat, and I can also use my tools to kind of create some fingers there. All right, and I've got one here. These are going to be overlapping, so I'm going to score that where that's going to overlap. Make that hand, create that, and press those down. Now, if you find some little cracks like that, a little moisture or your sponge can really help that out. Okay? All right. Now, add those fingers. Now, I can use some of the same extra clay, and I'm going to create kind of that headpiece. All right, so roll out, flatten it maybe just a little bit, and add that on there. Very good. trim off any excess if you feel like there's any. Don't forget to score it. And add it right on there. All right, now you can, from this point, getting all the limbs and things like that on there, it's your job now to maybe create some interesting designs. You could use any kind of tools. This one here has a round end. You could kind of create some interesting designs that way. As I mentioned earlier, there's some stamps up the supply table, so if you want to add some interesting designs that way. Also, you can use the tools to create some of those stripes in the feature and create some features. You can add the little beard, the headdress. Some of these smaller things you do want to make sure that they are attached well and that they have they're not too small. Small things do have a tendency to break, so sometimes what's the key here is to attach it kind of close in. Like, see, arms aren't sticking out like this. That's going to be easy to break. But things that are attached in like that are going to stay put a little bit better. Last step is just to make sure everything's attached well. Take your tools and kind of make sure everything's working well and it's going to stay on there. We don't want to spend a lot of time trying to put everything back together again. All right, maybe a little, any other details you have, you can add those to your, he needs a little goatee, but I need to work on that. Add those as details. All right, so add those details. Your very last detail is going to be carving your name in down here, okay? Put your name in there and your section number, 6F, 6N, whichever class you're in. And then we're going to put these on a board I have prepared already, and we'll save them for next time. Any other details, you might be able to add a few more. They may harden up just a little bit from the previous time, and then we're going to continue and make the other part of this box, okay? Once you're done, put that on the board. Put all your tools back in the center. Cloths go back. Any extra clay that you have goes in the bag to be put away. And this is the point, once I end this video, you can ask questions.